So yeah, so Remy just said that she won't be able to make it today, but I think we pretty much have the large lot of us here, so we can kick it off. I don't think Tori's here either, so I guess I'll read through some of like our key points from last week just to kick it off. So committee proposals, we're going to be sending out this letter next week to the student body. I've got all of the kind of elevator pitches from Leanne, Jasmine, Shayna, and Kate for the committees. So I had a couple questions actually. Rebecca, I was just wondering, do you have any sort of advice for like best practices for all of our committee heads, and kind of if you could explain like what you've seen work in recent years in terms of like scheduling committee meetings, like how exactly should we have, you know, the committee members come in and kind of do planning and stuff?
Mainly, the most active one was always the speakers, because everybody who was on the committee had someone that they wanted to bring. That's usually how it worked. All the other ones, they would pick a time, and usually, honestly, when they was in real life, it was when it was face-to-face, it was in the lunch on Fridays between the two 6-pack or 4-pack classes. And we made it only like 15 minutes because a lot of the work is done through emails. I'm assuming it'll turn into WhatsApp groups or Slack or whatever you guys are using. Best practices. Committee chairs, you lead. Don't wait to be like, oh, I want to hear from you. It's okay to always invite that, but have a driving agenda yourself. Like, I have a goal, let's tackle this first goal. And then all the other goals can come in along, and that usually inspires others, because others are waiting to see, well, what really can we do with this committee? So pick one thing and you lead with that. And it can be with emails. A lot of the work can be in emails. Actually meeting together is usually for logistics of like, okay, who's going to help me do this? Who's going to help me do that? So the biggest problem we've had in the past is people feel that no work can get done until they meet in committees for face-to-face. You don't. It can be all done on email.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And creating WhatsApp groups has been super helpful. I think all of us have seen in the pandemic. So that would be great. Cool. And then how many committee members are typically on each committee?
2 to 3, usually.
Cool.
And also our board can be a committee member too. That's fine too. We usually get outside of the board about 5 to 7 people in the student body that comes in and wants to be on a committee and does work. And every year we get one super committee member that starts wanting to come to the board meetings, but they didn't go through the election process, so they can do the committees.
Did you have a question, Leanne?
I was just wondering if, I mean, I really doubt this is going to happen, but optimistic me is like, what if we have more than 2 or 3 people wanting to be a part of our committees? That's great. Okay. I didn't know if there was a limit.
Nope.
Okay.
No, I'm just telling you the general interest of people who, your classmates who are actually organized enough with their time management. And I think if you get queries like, oh, I'm interested, what they want to know is what's the time commitment? And usually you say, it's like an hour a week when we have a project going. And really, and that's on the high end. Usually it's like answering emails, voting yay or nay, and then just volunteering to actually put in what you want to do for the actual event or project. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, so like I said, I'll be sending out that letter next week, but since it is something that normally it's, you know, a pretty tight-knit circle on each committee, definitely feel free to reach out to people who you think would be good on your committee, who you want to work with, and, you know, folks that you wouldn't mind just kind of like chatting with on WhatsApp about these sort of ideas and then taking them here to the board. But yeah, I mean, does anyone else have any other questions about committees before we move on from that? No? Cool. All right. I was looking through our student surveys. I still would like us to get a few more. I think we have like about 10 right now. So maybe I'll include that in next week's letter as well. And then I was also looking at our new items. And I noticed there was one from, I think it was from Kate, correct?
Yes,
Something.
I did submit something.
All right. I mean, how about I read it and then you can kind of explain a little bit more. Hold on one sec. Let me just pull it up. Basically, I think it was coming down to an issue of like communication from the school, but sorry, one sec.
I'm also
and
happy
we got some.
to summarize.
Sorry. What was that?
I'm also happy to just summarize it if that's more helpful than bringing it up.
Yeah, go ahead. I just found it, but go ahead.
I figured. So basically, I know that a lot of folks on the board are part-time students, so perhaps this isn't the same process that you guys have been dealing with, but we were asked to pick our advisors for our master's project this week. And it was just sort of a mix-up between like the communication process. So basically we had to choose advisors and then we were told how we should have chosen them. So it really, it upset a few folks, like especially, you know, in my cohort where we're in visual crafts. So we kind of specifically thought we had to pick visually based professors as our advisors in case that's what we wanted to do. And then we were told that actually wasn't what we needed to do, but we'd already submitted our choices. So it brought up a lot of just like concerns. We're getting our advisor choice. Some of us haven't been assigned yet. Some people have. So I'm not sure how it's actually panning out, but I don't know that there's anything we can super do other than just make sure that, you know, I don't know if we keep a log of just things that we'd like to recommend for later, but I definitely do feel like this affected a lot of people negatively just in terms of what they're feeling and the process that they think is ahead of them now.
Well, that sounds like an academic committee issue. And I gotta say, just as all second-year part-timers are aware, our master's process and picking our advisor situation as
was pretty bullshitty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
it was
technical
bullshitty.
The technical term.
Yeah.
Even at all either. The choices that we got was very limited. We didn't get to even request any of the advisors that we wanted. We couldn't even request them. So it's an issue that we also had in the past, and it's probably an issue we should definitely address in the future. And I don't think we can do anything about it now because they're gonna probably say COVID reasons and whatnot. But there's definitely, we should definitely address that for future students. And maybe, hey, we can even do something now. Maybe since you guys did recommend something, Chris, maybe that's something, you know, the recommendations maybe can be heard or something. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was there. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Just also two things from having just gone through it. The first was that we were told we were going to be sent the list in the first week in September, and we just obviously received it a week ago. So obviously COVID, totally understandable, but I think there's a lot of pressure now on students starting their master's project because a lot of us have zero clue what we want to do. And so, you know, maybe just having some support there for students from the academic team being like, you know, it's okay, you know, you'll have plenty of time, that kind of thing. But also, we were told that we were going to be told what kind of projects the advisors wanted to advise. So like, oh, I want to advise a magazine styled project or a sports themed project. We were not told that at all. So it was going in blind. We just read the bios that were on the website. So it was literally just a list of names with links to bios, which made no sense why that it took so long. So I think that there's just a lot of confusion, and that was just another angle of the confusion that I wanted to add.
Well, I think I gotta say it's interesting that you were told you would get a list of advisors like corresponding to type, because that is sort of atypical. And I think that that speaks to the desire on their part to create something that was more functional, and clearly that fell through the gaps. The bio thing has always been the standard of how you pick who you want your advisor to be, and I think we can all agree that's sincerely flawed. You don't know how many advisors are going to be available. Those bios, some of them aren't really even that up to date, and that really doesn't necessarily give you an idea of what they're going to be like as an advisor and what you're looking for as somebody who's going to help you construct your best work. So yeah, I think this is an ongoing issue. I do think that what you said means they're trying to address it, but clearly they are a little head underwater at this point. So maybe this is something that students could like have some sort of input in, some sort of, I don't know, not like a, I'm not thinking some sort of professor review thing here because that's a little too nuanced, and I don't want to get into like a rate of prof situation where, you know, one person was like, I had a horrible experience with blah, 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 and nobody ever wants them as an advisor. But it would be really useful to give examples of previous pieces that these professors have helped create so that you can get an idea of what their work is like. And I don't see why that would be that hard to do. I say these things because I work as an administrator, and these are the kind of lists that I make all the time. It's so doable.
So Leanne, you and I spoke about it this week, but just so the board is aware, this is something we've kind of talked about, not this specific issue, but the fact that there always seems to be kind of concerns around communication when it comes to being given information, being promised information, being told different things from different faculty members, and then some of those things ending up, you know, falling through the cracks. And I think in talking about what we wanted to do, you know, with like Leanne's committee and kind of how we were going to address academic affairs issues, I think we kind of talked about maybe creating a whole list of concerns that were like general to the student body, and seeing, you know, what is effective in terms of, do we take it all to the, you know, to the administration in a letter? Do we create a subcommittee to focus on part-time issues, and then have a, you know, like another extension of this committee focusing on full-time issues? I think it's something that, I mean, Leanne will obviously be kind of spearheading, but something that we can definitely work on as a group here. And I think like Andrew, you know, as a first-year part-timer, even though this full-time situation doesn't impact you, and, you know, our situation as second-year part-timers doesn't necessarily impact you, this is going to have an impact on your, you know, your portion of the student body come this summer, come, you know, however they plan to do this. So I think it would be good if you could kind of maybe work on this with Leanne, whether, even if it's kind of like looking at maybe part-time issues, on like serving as like a committee member for her or something, not to force you into something, but I think that could be good.
So this is where I told you we try to have a meeting with the academic affairs dean, which is now Winnie. So we need to introduce her, and we need to let her know our history is that we meet with her once a semester so that we can bring up the concerns we're hearing from students, and this is a concern, and that we actually work to see how she wants to do it. If she wants a task force committee, or she just wants us to come back with a list of suggestions. She wants a contact person. So we kind of make it work the way she functions. We don't know, she's new, so we don't know how she functions.
Right. What's Winnie's last name?
I don't know. I have to look it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah. But let's set up an introductory call with
meeting with her.
So we need to let her know that, you know, we're excited to work with her, and that in the past SPJ schedules a meeting with her and the general board, the board, once a semester, and tell her that we'd like to bring up, you know, concerns that we're hearing. We try to filter the concerns we're hearing that she may not know about.
For sure.
I have a concern to add, but I'm not sure if you would want to mention it with her or with more careers side. But like, I've been attending a lot of the careers events, you know, where you're meeting the media, as well as, you know, just normal discussions that are put on with our academic classes. And something that just has really kind of been bothering me is that, this week, for example, I was at a Meet the Media, and there were like 7 people there, and we weren't even allowed to ask our own questions to these potential hiring people. We had to put them in the chat, and the careers people and the academic people kind of took over. And I just think that, you know, we have such limited opportunities, whether it's in class or in these career opportunities, to meet people for networking. And time again, we aren't allowed to make those connections, and it's bad enough that they're virtual. So I think that that's just something I really want brought up, either with academics or careers, or both.
No, that's not academics at all. That if it's anything career center, there's a distinct line. So we established a pretty good relationship with Julie Hartenstein, the director. This is where we would go back to her And anything that's under the career services, that she's the helm of that. If we go to the academics person, I'm sorry?
It's also been in some of the classes too, so that's why I wasn't sure.
So then we need to do a double repeat. We need to tell both.
Right, that's why. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I add something too? It's also like the lectures that we have on Tuesdays, the toolkit ones. Sometimes I feel like they're just not as effective to the student body. I went to them last year just because I wanted to be involved in school. And to be honest, like, now they made it mandatory, so like round 2. But either way, to me personally, I don't feel like they're effective, and they're just a waste of time sometimes. I like
so as you're feeling they're not effective, do notes of what is not effective, because this is all new to them. They will value the feedback because they're going to get repeated again for the next class, and then they may also start taking notes for future ones that you have to attend. But always just say it's not effective. Say it's not effective because, and give the points, because that's what they need. That's the feedback they need. And they'll take it.
I do just want to jump in there though and say that I think like it's probably a better approach for us not to argue against it being you know a requirement, but instead to provide feedback that we think would be helpful. Like if it's going to be a requirement, a mandate, then like here's what we think would be better. And in fact, if we're going to be mandating these lectures, why aren't we mandating career consultation meetings?
Agreed.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
But definitely I think it's important to take those notes. And Leanne, I mean, if you can, I'll think on it as well. If anyone has good ideas of like how we can really kind of, I mean, we have like a student survey issue, but if there's like another way that maybe we can begin building this like list and kind of seeing whether there's like themes, because I think one big theme is communication across the board.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed. Yeah.
So for the
and then figuring out, yeah.
Sorry. So for the toolkit thing, I have like a bunch of points. But so for the toolkit thing, I mean, instead of just like, I agree, it's not a great idea to just tell them like, this is like garbage. We should, I think one thing that could be very useful for it is to maybe institute a feedback, like a more formal feedback system. It could be so easy for them to just send out a link to a survey being like, look, I found this data session super helpful. I didn't find the latest one like as helpful. You know, I think that could be something super easy to institute. The other thing I want to say about master's projects is, at least in the STBIL program I know, there's a really good catalog of who did what STBIL project, and it could be so easy just to say, and Sheila like knows who was the advisor for each project, and like you can read all of the projects. I think it could be very easy to like build something formalized where you not only just have the projects, but you also have, you know, who wrote it and also who the advisor was. I think that's something very easy to make. And also
it totally is.
Yeah. Also, I haven't done my master's project yet. I opted to move it, to do it this fall. So there are a group of second year part-time students who haven't done that yet. And so it's a bigger group of people who are trying to do the master's project in a very difficult digital environment. So I think that like that's a huge thing. Like that's I found the entire thing really like very disjointed and confusing. So yeah.
Kate,
just to piggyback off, I think, you know, the thing that the reason I'm bringing it up, even though like it, you know, it doesn't affect necessarily me or the people who have already had to go through this process, is that we also have this secondary cohort starting in January that is going to have to do this soon and again, perhaps before changes can be implemented. It obviously gave me the impetus to be like, maybe our first speaker session is to bring in some of these students who worked on master's projects last year to talk about how they figured out their topic and like how they worked with their advisor, and not necessarily like single out different.
I love that.
I mean, that's what I want to know about right now, because we didn't get any access to anything and had to do all of these things. And I feel like whatever I can do to mitigate the stress levels that I think we're all feeling at having been sort of pushed in a direction without a lot of direction is vital. So if we can fix the process earlier rather than later, set up this meeting just to like get ahead of that with Winnie, of like, you know, maybe making it easier on the group that's coming in next while there's still time to plan for them, I think that would be a really big win for us as far as just fixing the system. And I completely agree on these toolkit sessions for a lot of other reasons. But if I'm being asked every day to fill out these course evaluations before the courses are over, I feel like I would happily fill out a toolkit thing the day it happens. Like,
yeah, and it wouldn't have to be a requirement. You would not have to fill it
right.
out. But if you wanted to, please do.
Right.
It makes there are very simple solutions that are presenting themselves here.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah.
And
I
that's
really
great
like
because we
that
can
idea, though,
suggest
by the
them.
way. Yeah, I love that idea, Kate. And even if it was something as simple as like reaching out to current like second year part-timers like me or anyone else who's like already completed it and just see if they're willing to, like, I would be happy to, like,
I would
to
just
just sit
too.
on a right and just answer any questions they may have.
If you guys have it.
Just
And that
so
might
you
be
know,
something like go ahead.
that Melanie actually does do that, but they do it usually during an orientation. I'm sure if we ask her, she would organize one now.
Okay.
And if she couldn't, I mean, I'm willing to go and ask her if she's not willing to do it, if she can give us a blessing to do it.
Okay.
Great. And we could also just have people send us video of them talking about what their experience was like. So it doesn't even have to be live.
Yeah. Do you mind, Kate, sending just like that, like basically just like a really quick, like 2-sentence blurb of exactly what we're thinking in an email to Rebecca and I, and then maybe Rebecca, you can bring it to.
We'll approach Melanie.
Okay.
Or actually, Leon, just how you did the cold space, I would say do the same thing.
Okay.
With Melanie, and then and put in the suggestion about the video recording, and that we would help manage that so she doesn't feel like she has one more thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That doesn't need to. We don't need to stress her out about it. I'll.
We just need her blessing to do it. That's all we need.
Leanne, do you want me to? Should I just send an email to all three of you?
Yeah.
With that like little blurb, and then you can retool it however you need. I don't want you to have to do. Okay, great.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
No, of course.
Thanks, Kate.
No, thank you guys. I'm sorry to like bogart. It really.
No, we love.
There's no bogarting.
We love your input.
So we have another item.
Yeah.
We have another item.
Wait, I was just
from
gonna say,
Megan.
Kate, don't feel bad, because the other thing is, you and Shayna and there's one more are the full-time representation. So we need to hear this. You need to throw it out at us, because
Agreed.
Yeah, we need to hear everybody's experience. So don't ever feel like you're bogarting. Just throw it out there. And we'll see where it lands.
I'll be honest, I'm really grateful. It makes me grateful to hear that. I don't know, grateful is word, but like, we're all in the same boat kind of thing. Because I felt very stressed out by that whole process, even before we ended up having to shift around this year's master project and who was doing it when. And it's so to know that full-timers also feel like that the wind's sort of been knocking them off their feet is kind of reassuring that, hey, we are all in the same college, aren't we?
Yeah, right. The other thing is, like, a lot of people, I'm sure, can pass this up to being like COVID problems, but I think communication was an issue long before the pandemic began here. So I think it's something that we should just address generally. Just want to make sure we get through these other quick items. This one's a pretty routine one from Megan. I think initially she was planning on kind of just putting up like bios from everyone, but instead I think she would prefer to get 200-word max character count blurb from everybody for the website. So this is a good chance to advertise yourself and include in your resumes and all that. So do take some time on it and glorify yourself a little bit.
I mean, in addition to the glorifying, just also, I think it would be really good to say what your role is, because for a lot of people who might be just like, who do I contact if I have issues about academics, like Leanne? So I wrote a couple of them. They're crap. You should write your own, because I don't really want to write your things for you. So it's updated now. You can go to the website and it's under the Meet the Board thing. So if you have any updates, can you send that to me before next week? It'll be great.
Cool. And then for contact info, I don't think anyone should include their contact info on the site. I think it's just generally a better practice to have the SPJ email on the website, and we can filter everything in through that way. I mean, like, you can, if you want to like link to your LinkedIn or something, I don't know, I guess that's fine, but just don't include like an email or anything like that.
Right. And just so everybody knows, the email is columbiaspj@gmail.com.
So I have a question. On the contact page, there is a form that has a different email. And can I just change the email that that form goes to? Okay, great. Fantastic. And then, I mean, like, okay, do you guys maybe like Twitter handles? Like, would you guys feel comfortable about putting Twitter handles on there? Or
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
think that's
really
okay,
cool.
'cause
Yeah.
that's
Twitter's
your
fine.
So
digital
it's
footprint.
personalized a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah. That's perfect.
Okay, then everybody send me your bios and also a Twitter handle if you have one.
Yeah, and everyone should absolutely have a Twitter handle, by the way.
Yeah.
You are in the wrong industry if you don't have a Twitter. And also, Megan says that we need to bring in Maria Hinojosa
Yeah,
as a speaker.
She's the host of Latino USA. So I mean, I think last time we were talking about one speaker that we might bring in with NAHJ. Anyway, Maria Hinojosa recently wrote a really good book called Once I Was You, and it's all about sort of being like a person of color in a professional workplace, like specifically journalism, and sort of just like giving young people of color advice, which is like perfect for the J school. And like we could be definitely more diverse, because there's definitely, like last year a lot of people brought up sort of issues of how hard it is to break into journalism as a person of color. And I think that and she's also based in Harlem. She also has some affiliation with the J school, and like I think she's spoken at some point. Also, she's just a really good talker.
She's a graduate of Barnard College.
Nice.
She spoke, the last time she spoke at the J school was about 10 years ago. She's come to some professors' classes, 1 or 2 professors' classes. I know her. She has a really busy schedule. So we're gonna have to figure out a good time, because she's also one of those that she needs a filled room. She won't be very happy if it's only 10 people. But she is a big get. It's just right now, her time is limited because she's doing a lot of promotion of her book.
Yeah, I figured, I mean, maybe she would be open to speaking. I mean, if we can figure something out, I think she would be a great speaker, especially if you were trying to get more diverse voices in the room, I think. But yeah, I totally get that. I think it could be interesting to do it with NAHJ, and I am not a member of that organization.
I'm a member of that organization, and Angie reached out to her for one of the. We're having a voting panel this Friday, and I would recommend anyone that's interested in seeing a different perspective, especially in the Latino community, should definitely check out this panel on Friday. She was invited by Angie, and Rebecca said, she's very busy, and Angie wasn't able to get a hold of her. And then finally Marina did reply, but then she has not replied since then. So I think might be an issue in getting her as a speaker.
Zelda, what position does Angie hold at NAHJ?
She is the social media editor.
Okay. Do you know who the president is?
Yes, Bianca.
Oh, okay. Because I've been talking with like a few folks, and I just spoke with the new Dean of Student Life as well, and he's really interested in doing these kind of like cross collaboration events, and just having us all kind of like the affinity groups working with the SPJ board. So maybe that will be something that we can work on later on down the road, like some sort of a kind of diverse panel with NAHJ and maybe a few other affinity groups even, and then kind of going for like big time speakers like this, and then that would help us get the audience that big time speakers demand.
Well, sure. I'm going to give you a heads up. All of the administration wants us to do co-sponsorships. They really don't want the individual groups doing a lot of programming, because they are realizing how overprogrammed and that no one's going to anything. So they're going to really push for us to do cross ones. And if we do small ones, I think we can get away saying, because they're very specialty things that we are actually planning for 10 to 15 people. So if we're actually planning for a small group, I think they'll let us get away with it. But any big panels or specials, they want they want cross pollination basically.
I think
And
it could be
I
a
think
really
that's
good
great too.
opportunity to, well, I think it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like Angie hasn't necessarily gotten a no yet. It sounds like we're kind of in this, if we are able to like, it sounds like she's already gotten the ball rolling. So if we are able to sort of throw our weight behind her ask, and I can touch base with her on this, I think we might all have a better chance of getting her as a speaker if we were to sort of make it a joint thing, if they're open to it. So yeah, I get it, but I think I don't think we don't have to give up just yet. You know what I mean?
No,
No,
definitely.
I think she could come. I just don't know if she'll come in the fall because she is really
Yeah.
heavily inundated in her schedule with her book. And she's now starting to get accolades and little prizes here and there for it. So she may be a February kind of speaker, or maybe a beginning of spring kind of speaker.
And we
If
could
we made her a
start now.
keynoter, she would love that.
Yeah, let's start now.
She really likes to
do
make
like
the
a
room. Yeah,
throw
we
out
can
a
start
date.
now. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Start now.
Right.
Put it in her calendar.
And that way, if she does get real famous and has a ton of accolades, she's not going to say no because she's already on the calendar. So that's all we need.
Oh,
She's already pretty famous.
she's already
like
pretty
just-
famous.
she's
Yeah,
a
but like,
really cool
I
person.
mean, you know what I mean.
But more. I
Yes.
want her to get more famous. She's so cool.
So I'll reach out to Bianca and set up like an introductory kind of, introducing our boards, our teams, and then maybe we'll start the process of getting Kate and Megan and others who want to like work on this, maybe putting together some sort of an event for like the spring or something like that. But yeah, I really like that idea. I mean, it makes sense that they wanna kind of group us all together and try to do like big cohesive events rather than all these like small separate things and have us all inundated, which we kind of already are. I mean, a lot of the student responses that we've received are folks saying that they want like these type of events that are already being offered. And I think in a lot of ways, they just aren't even aware that they're happening literally like the day of that they're sending in these requests. So
There's too many emails. There's too many
exactly.
emails.
It all goes
Okay,
back
so
to
that
communication.
brings up to another, I'm part of the planning event committee for the school, and every department sends a representative. The biggest concern there is like, they want to revamp how they communicate to you, but they need to know how. They need the student perspective. So we need to figure out how we can tell the students, because they're like, we're doing this week in the J school, we're doing the Facebook group, we're doing, all these push outs with WhatsApp groups. They're like, but it's not getting heard. And I said, because they're not reading, but someone tells them about it, they do it. So I had told them how we were thinking of maybe doing a kind of a buddy system, but for mental health checking. And I thought if we can figure out a way to have a list of things of like what you should know, or here's what it is, or just, and what I proposed was like, I proposed to them, can we create a list that has career services, date, and then a slug, like cover letters, or, interviewing, like just a slug, and people can look and be like, oh, okay. And they're like, but we're doing all this promotion. I said, yes, but they're not reading. They just need the quick, okay, when you put in my head, I need interview, let me look on the list. And they're not sold on it, but I think we should try to do something like that. We should try to figure out a way to communicate to the students, because you guys are students and you know the best practices of how your classmates are taking in information, because emails are just not doing it.
Megan, does the WordPress have like a calendar option?
Yeah, I think so. We can definitely add something.
I'm just thinking, like, even if we're like a central hub of just like, this is how the calendar looks for like, because that's what I need. I mean, I genuinely would be able to fill in, because getting these emails every week with like things that I definitely want to do, like I've already scheduled interviews, I've already done some of these things. That's the first time I'm hearing about some of this stuff. And I think if we all could know in advance of, like, just like look at the calendar against our class schedule and be like, here, I'm immediately signing up for these 3 things, and I just get the reminder and do it. It's way easier than me trying to figure out how to re-budget time once I find out that, like, and I know there's just so many platforms, there's so many different organizations doing this, but even if we just start with like the affinity groups of like, here's everything going on with these things, and if you want to be part of that, like, know that this conversation's happening, like, know what your student groups are doing for you.
So I think, okay, so Melanie is like the queen of schedule, and I also agree that I would really love for that schedule to be in a like grid format, or a slightly different format. I think the trouble here is that, there's definitely a way around this, but I think the trouble here is that a lot of this, like, she doesn't necessarily know ahead of time. And I wonder how we would do this without just completely reinventing the wheel and like having like me basically trying to be Melanie and having our little like, but
yeah.
you know,
Plus, to be completely honest, students aren't going to go to like our website then. It just becomes like it becomes another thing that they'll need to check. I don't understand why we can't have like a career aspect of our coursework site where like, I mean, we have those calendars that you can see your own classes.
Yeah.
How come you can't click a button to see what the career office is offering that week?
Because,
you know?
It has to be approved by the university academic committee, whatever, for it to be in that courseworks. And that's why all of these courses you guys have to take, that's like a workshop or whatever for bullying or anti-harassment, those are state mandated. So we have to go through. I actually told Julie and Lauren on the meeting yesterday that you guys want to make it part of it, and they agreed. They're like, yeah, that's what we want too. It's not
to make it mandatory.
Yeah, it's not like they don't want it. It's a whole Columbia University deal. It's not a Columbia J School deal.
Can we resend like the whole like this week at the J School? I read it for the most part, but I have to say most of the students in my class don't.
They don't.
They don't go through the whole thing because there's like, Bloomberg Terminal, there's all these sort of more instruction-based things. And then there's like, wow, so-and-so's here from the Miami Herald. But it's kind of like lost in the jargon. Is there a way that maybe we can send out like, hey, this is pretty cool. This guy's here from the Journal. And, rather than having to go through all that stuff.
Again, I'm going to just bring my administrative functioning self here. We can all agree there's too many emails. This week at the J School is the most important email, and it gets lost with all of these professors and committees then emailing me separately, telling me about the event that is included in this week. So we have to streamline it, and it really needs to come from one person what is actually happening, unless there are changes that have been made. And we need to know it every Monday we can expect this week from the J School. Also, if you want to get people to read, it's got to be dynamic. I know we're journalists and we love to like write and read, but it's email and it's completely different. It's not a newspaper. It's not a book. We need people to like take the time and make graphics, simplify things. So-and-so from Miami Herald coming to talk about diversity. Boom, boom. Here's the Zoom link. Practice your cover letters, practice interviewing. Want to practice interviewing? Click here for information. Boom. It has to be that simple, and it has to be that neat and tidy.
At yesterday's meeting, I actually suggested those things. The person who coordinates it made a plea to everybody, please shorten your blurbs. They're too long. Okay. So then I asked, well, can't we put just 2 or 3 sentences and then put a website? And then if they need to put a paragraph, give us a character limit or a word limit, but make sure that they have a website to redirect. They liked that idea, but they're trying to figure out how to implement it with all of the departments. But it's out there, and they know that the communication is a problem. So I think, again, Leanne, if we as a group write suggestions from the student perspective, they will listen. So this is another thing. And we can talk offline and I'll tell you who that goes to. Okay. So it goes to a different person. It goes to the events department.
Okay.
So in that is where we should probably also include, I forget who said it earlier in the meeting, talking about how there should just be more general feedback with events. I think that could probably tie in nicely into that conversation.
This is the problem. Anything that Melanie really has never goes into this week in the J School, or that I notice. Am I wrong? Because I'm seeing all the other departments other than the stuff from the Dean of Students office. So
that's an interesting question, because I would
not know.
That's
true, because Melanie has her own emails that say action item, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out, and Melanie doesn't come to this department meeting. She sends Chanel, who's part of the representative for her department. Years ago, Melanie used to have a Google Calendar, and it had almost everything. The problem is all the departments started growing and started wanting to do their own calendar. I'm trying to figure, I want to talk to Melanie and see if, does she still do that calendar? And if anything, will she let us add on and edit to it? So, because it's supposed to be somewhere that's visible to all of you. I still don't know how to get to it, but I was shown it 4 years ago. I don't know if it still happens.
Yeah,
So
I think we need a calendar.
we need
Yeah,
a
get this
calendar.
magical calendar.
Yes,
a
yes,
J
we do.
school-wide event calendar
But
is
no,
Exactly.
we need to define it differently, because there is a J school wide calendar. It's on
It's
the
in
website.
Melanie's signature.
I'm sorry?
The J school wide calendar is in Melanie's signature, like it's literally in her
Right.
signature.
It's in her signature. Oh, okay. But the thing is that has everything happening in the J school. That's not necessary for students. We need a student calendar.
right.
Correct.
Yes.
So we need to
Yes.
figure out if we revamp hers and tell her we need to connect the dots with the journalism careers, or, you know, whatever is important. So we need to figure out a calendar, and then we need to advertise it, because that was the other thing. I think she may have stopped it because she did all this work and no one was looking at it, but it was partially no one knew how to find it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We just
I
need
agree.
to figure out where on the website they go to to find it.
Yeah.
The
Even
only
if it's
time they
just
mentioned
creating a
it is
business.
during
a maze.
orientation. Yeah.
The website is a
hate
maze.
the website. I hate
It's
the
horrible.
website.
It's horrible.
It was awful. It was so stressful. It continues to be stressful. I've always hated
Okay,
It's
that
hard
can I
website.
tell
to
you?
follow. It's not user
Can I
friendly.
tell you that website is about 4 years old, and it's a big improvement than what they had before.
We need a
Well,
webmaster.
I
Megan,
want to
go
make
and
sure we
help us.
cover everything. So let's move on. But yeah, so this is these, I feel like honestly academic affairs issues could take over every single meeting, you know, for the entire year. So if you guys want to serve, I imagine that will probably end up being the biggest committee. But I almost think I want to serve as a member
Yeah,
of it.
Leanne, I want to help.
But
Heck yeah, y'all
Yeah.
come on down.
yeah, so maybe that'll I don't know. We'll put in a warning that might take a little bit more
Because as
time
part of
than some of the other
Senator, I have to
committees.
voice these concerns in case at the Senate meetings, which we have another one tomorrow. So
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then so we pretty much have a good idea of we'll end it on events just so that we can be prepared for Sunday night. But we pretty much have a good idea of, you know, I guess now how this academic affairs committee will look, how the events committee will be shaping up pretty much. One thing we haven't really focused on and talked too much about was community service. And so I'm interested in just I want to give Jasmine the floor a little bit and, you know, just hear if anyone has any general questions, or if Rebecca, maybe you have any advice of things that we can be doing this year. One of my first questions is whether we can, you know, I know that there's a lot of traditionally we work in soup kitchens and do a lot of volunteer stuff in the community surrounding Columbia, but I wonder if now is a time that we should also be looking a little inward too and doing events or community service initiatives to help students who maybe, you know, need a little bit of extra resources to get by or whatever it might be during these times. So with that, I guess I'll leave it to Jasmine to kind of, you know, introduce herself and share a little bit more about what I think you would want to do with the board this year or with the committee this year.
Yeah, so I was thinking the first thing I wanted to do is definitely something for Thanksgiving, like a food pantry or soup kitchen, but unfortunately we can't really do that because we can't do anything in person. And we also can't really spend money on these events. Not that that would require money, but they do have to be virtual things. So I was speaking with Rebecca and we were thinking of either for the first event to do this idea of pen pals with people from a nursing home, since go to check in and just see if they're just give, I guess, these people someone to speak with. And another idea was a virtual journalism session for middle school students. So this would be obviously our students would have to be interested in the first place. So I was thinking of doing a Facebook poll And I wanted to hear some feedback from you guys about like what you think would work and what people would be interested in and have time for, I guess. But that could be done virtually. I think we could like set up a session with the school nearby, and like just give them an info set. We would obviously plan it on our end and I would help with that. But if I guess it all just really depends on how people respond to this poll and what they're leaning towards more.
Is it an either or situation? Like we can either do the pen pal thing or virtual journalism, or we could do both, or we can do neither.
Yeah, we could do both. I think the poll would just be sort of to see what to do first to get people engaged in service.
The general guideline I gave Jasmine was for community service, it can be outside community, it can be inside community, because I was talking about that buddy system mental health check. I told her we can do anything as long as we have it affects a target of a group of 10 or more. That's a worthwhile group of people, a number of people. So any project, as long as we can engage 10 people or more, then we can do it. And it can be inside our group. It tends not to be, but this year it should be. And it can be outside the group. And that's why I said, you know, I was thinking of people who may make us feel better talking to them, and people who need to hear from us.
Yeah, I love
that. For the one where we would be like teaching middle schoolers, how many hours were you kind of thinking for that? Because I feel like that might be people's concerns. Like, you know, writing can be more on your time or a shorter amount of time to really be honing in versus the teaching. Were you thinking it being like a 3-hour thing? I just wanted to hear a little more about
Nope. So in the past, that's the one thing we've done consistently over since my time. We did it, I created a program, and what I'm going to speak to the program I created is we did it once every 2 weeks, and we had 7 people who were interested. So 3 would go 1 week, and then so they were going once a week, the 2 different groups. One would go 1 week, and then 2 weeks later, the other group would go. They would go and just talk, and it was an hour. It was like their class time of journalism. So they would go and they would do exercises like if it was interviewing, they'd make them pair up. So it was just that time there served, because we didn't want them to feel that they would have to do extra time. It was like, I committed to do 2 to 4 on this week, and that's it. And that included the commuting back and forth.
Okay,
yeah.
I gotta say, I worked with middle schoolers for 6 years. I was a teacher. I love this idea. I love it so much. Please come to me and I will give you ideas of like things we can do, like good 1 hour lesson plan. Like I'm so on board for this. Count me in. And the other thing about the pen pals, I love the idea of pen paling. I think it's great. And I think maybe we could still do that, but that is going to be a lot of time commitment for kids, or excuse me, not kids, students who are overwhelmed already. Mm-hmm. So we could organize like Thanksgiving cards or winter cards that get sent and mailed, and you know, kids can, or I did it again, sorry, students can write letters to a specific person saying like, you know, hope your Thanksgiving is wonderful, or like they could send them a hand painted card or a hand drawn card or something. So that would be a less of a long relationship immediately that you're signing up for. It could eventually become that if you chose to, but just a way to make it a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I think Jasmine, that idea of like a holiday, like a holiday greetings card would be really nice. Even if it's something that like just, you know, maybe like we send throughout the school or something. I mean, Shayna had an idea for like a virtual pen pal situation where you would just kind of get randomly paired with someone else in the journalism school. She even said like it would be a good idea to have it be like a face-to-face, like a Zoom thing, since some folks literally just go all day without speaking to anybody online. So while I think it's nice that maybe we could do pen pals like with folks outside of the school, I think maybe the pen pal situation would be good to do internally, and then we can focus on other community service oriented events for outside of the school. But I think like just because students right now are so inundated with work and classes, and they have such little time to socialize and opportunity to socialize, maybe that would be something better catered towards our community. And maybe that's something like you can talk with with Shayna about. But you know, I mean, totally, if you, whatever you guys think is best, I'm just, you know, giving my own ideas. But so we have a few more minutes left. In terms of events, I think just the one thing, I don't want to end the meeting without discussing the imposter syndrome event. So it looks like we have approval to go ahead with it.
Woo.
Melanie said to me in an email that it could be a maximum of 50 people, which I don't feel comfortable doing. So I think we'll probably limit it to something more like maybe 20 or 30 folks and do it in mid-November. But I'll talk with Shayna and Aruba and whoever else wants to be a part of those conversations. And then we'll bring it to the board probably next week with like a specific date in November that we're gonna do it and a few more concrete details. And as for Sunday, I have my pumpkin carving materials. I'm very excited. Shayna, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this crazy podcast that we're going to be listening to?
Yeah, so
oh, did she just drop off?
No,
she just disappeared.
No.
Oh my god.
Talk about a thriller, man.
The Watcher House doesn't want her to talk about it.
Quite the cliffhanger.
Okay.
Oh, she's back.
These headphones are super sensitive, so if you touch the side, it ends the Zoom call.
We thought you were just leaving us on a cliffhanger, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, like maybe that was the right move. So I was between two podcasts. Both occurred in my hometown. You guys are gonna be terrified of my hometown after this. But honestly, it has been ranked every year one of the safest towns in the country. So these are just really weird things that have happened. So I listened to like every podcast out there about these two things that happened to find the one that had not a lot of like curse words and like not like, you know, some people can be in podcasts can just have like a really bad, what's the word I'm looking for, like way of like doing it and things like that. So I found one, and you guys said you liked the Watcher House better, so I think we're gonna go with that one. So get ready for that. That's exciting. And I had my mom walk down the street to take a photo of the house. So I have a photo to put up for them to look at.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah,
Walk
so
down the street, eh? So close.
It's literally on my street. Yeah. And like I was in high school when this was happening, and I passed this house every single day.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so at the beginning, we'll just kind of like wait 5 minutes for people to come in, see if anyone has questions about painting or carving their pumpkins, and then we'll get started. And yeah, it should be good, but please, 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 if you guys can come, because for all we know, no one else can come. I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to be painting and enjoying the podcast. So come, push it out on your social media, push it out in the groups. If you guys don't push it out, people aren't going to be reminded of it. So I just ask for your help there, please.
I'm reposting a similar message about the event and also the Zoom link tomorrow. And I'm going to also repost it not only Friday, but also Sunday.
Yep.
Good.
Sunday, I'm going to be doing a big push too. And I'll post it a bunch as well and annoy everyone. But I'm really excited. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
And can I ask, are we like, we're going to be listening to it, I'm imagining, because you'll like share your screen and share audio, and we'll just listen to it as you're listening to it. Will the chat box be open so that we can like chat, or we'll be like holding up our pumpkins? Like how are we?
I mean, this is kind of part of the thing of why I chose podcasting, because I feel like everyone kind of needs to concentrate on what they're doing, you know, versus if we did trivia, it's kind of like, you know, losing focus. So yeah, have the chat box open. I'm just going to have the photo up of the house on the screen. People can chat about if they have questions about their painting, or if they don't need ideas, or if they have questions about the house. And then at the end, because I think this one is like 40, 50 minutes, like I'll stay on for as long as people want to. I don't have a rush, but they can always leave if they need to. Then we can just talk, have questions. People can show their pumpkins after the podcast. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And we're out of time, so we're going to have to leave it at that. Megan, I did see your message in the chat. We'll talk about the mutual aid fund. I like the idea. I just want to make sure all the logistics are okay. So before we bring it up, I'll get that worked out first. But thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you on Sunday night. Looking forward to it. Let me know if you have any questions. Just WhatsApp me or whatever. Talk soon.
Bye,
The
guys.
debate today, everyone.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, enjoy the debates.
Oh
I
gosh.
didn't even realize we still have like a whole other day ahead of us tonight.
Oh,
Sorry, I just threw up in my
whoa,
mouth.
whoa, whoa.
Let's mute him.
Yeah. All right. See you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.